Hello?
Hi, good morning. Could I speak to Kristen, please?
This is Kristen.
Hi, this is Jason Curtis speaking from South Africa.
Hi, how are you?
Well, thanks, and you. It's good to speak to you.
Yeah, you too. What time is it? Where are you?
It's 7 o'clock in the evening. Same day as you, but just a bit later.
Oh, okay. That's easy. It's the same day.
Yeah, at least it's the same day. That's true. Kristen, as I say, I was lucky enough a couple of years ago, well, let's say in 1994, you did an unplugged session at the Tower Records on Sunset, and I got to see you play there, and it was.
Oh my goodness, you've been there.
I was actually on holiday at the time, and I was out there for a couple of months, and it was. I think it was possibly my highlight. You and John Cale were my highlights of that trip.
Oh, aren't you sweet? I remember that in store. With a cellist?
That's correct. Yeah, that's right.
Wow. Good for you. Get around.
I do. Story of my life. But more importantly, let's talk about you. Congratulations on the new album.
Thank you very much.
I think it's personally, I think it's a great album. But that's just me being biased, of course. But I can be.
It's nice of you to be that biased. Everybody was.
I'm sure. Now, so interesting to me. I mean, obviously, throwing muses are no longer, and obviously, unfortunately, people will always reference that, but it's not an unfortunate thing. But interesting for me was Kristen Hersh and throwing muses. Was that a difficult thing to balance those two personalities while the two were still very much in play for you?
The songs kind of told me what to do as far as their production approach. I tend not to want that much attention. I'm kind of a shy person, so I don't think I would have invented a solo career.
Okay.
I really miss my band. But there were a bunch of songs that really wanted to be treated as simply as possible. So when I played those, it felt right to be alone playing a little piece of wood. And when I played the Muses songs, it felt right to have all that sound going on. Personally, I don't really change that much depending on what I'm doing because my personality is so flimsy that I just leave when I'm playing anyway.
Okay, fair enough. And as I say, you and your stepsister Tanya Donnelly. Actually, when I sort of think back, because I've sort of been a 4AD fan, to say for I think as long as I sort of, or longer than I care to remember. But in comparison to especially your solo careers, they tend to sort of move on common, or move in a similar way, in the sense that Tanya is now enjoying a solo career, as are you, after having been a part of bands that were sort of very influential, especially in sort of the late 80s and even early 90s. Do you sort of feel that way?
Yeah, Belly was different from the incarnation of the Muses that just ended. Belly was so shiny pop with a commercial focus, and so she's leaving that to do something that is very different. But the Muses were kind of, trying not to succeed.
Right.
And I still am following that philosophy.
Okay.
That I'm making the records I want to make, and I I won't play the game and hope for, say, a radio hit, or because I don't want everything else I do to be considered a failure. So I don't have a single, and I'm not making a video, and it feels like being in Throwing Muses, I'm just kind of by myself. I think he is really in the middle of a big shift career-wise. It's great for her. I'm really happy that she has a record that sounds like her, and she's touring with her husband in the band. That's great. It's a good lifestyle change, I think.
And for you, as I say now, with you now being an entity truly unto yourself, is that the place that you sort of were looking to be in?
Oh no.
Okay.
I'm not going to complain about it because I'm lucky that anyone wants to listen to songs I write. But I miss my band. I miss the sound of it. I miss my friends.
Yes.
And yet, this is a nice adult way to work. My husband, children, and even dog tour with me.
Okay.
And we tour in a car, and we just need one hotel room. I don't pay other musicians. I don't have any equipment really. Guitar. I can play at 8 o'clock at night in theaters instead of midnight in rock clubs. So it's nice and quiet, but it's not fun.
Okay, fine. It should be, shouldn't it?
Well, I like music, but it's not fun, capital F,
Yeah.
Telling myself in jokes and stuff doesn't really have effect. Hanging with my buddies.
But now, what would you sort of want to change about that? Would you want sort of Throwing Muses to sort of be reborn, or would it be something that you would just take on personally and maybe rebuild something around you rather than around something that was already there?
I want my band back. I would wait to see what kind of material I had. I started writing, when I start writing again.
Yes.
And see how it needs to be treated, and just work from there. I love those bright, loud colors and in paint. Yeah? Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, no problem. Now, interesting as well. Well, just a question, obviously. 4AD, was that a good place, and is it a good place for you to be, do you think?
It is, although I've been there longer than most of people who are the label.
That's right.
It's gone through many shifts, and yet they have maintained their philosophy, which is that music matters. And I can't tell you how rare and almost bizarre that is. Record companies say that. Reprise is another label. That's where we were on Reprise in America.
Yeah.
That just said Throwing Muses should be making records. Throwing Muses doesn't have to sell records.
Really?
Which is really admirable. Although after a while you can't pay the rent anymore. That umbrella philosophy.
And in the States now with Strange Angels, is that being done through 4AD, or is it again through a subsidiary?
This is through Ryko Disc.
Okay.
And Throwing Music.
Yes. Yeah. Now, why is that actually for America?
Why are we on Ryko Disc?
Yes.
Because we didn't think we were a major label band, and even when we had successful records like University, we had such a huge debt that we didn't make a penny off of it. serve to pay off the debt.
Wow.
So we wanted to start over again. We left Warner Brothers and started over at a smaller indie that can actually work a record without risking millions of dollars.
Right.
Millions of dollars that it costs to run a big machine like Warner Brothers.
Now, obviously, the success that you had with Hips and Makers, do you anticipate? Do you want the kind of success from Strange Angels as you had from Hips and Makers?
I don't really see that happening because Michael Stipe isn't singing on the show.
Okay.
But I don't really need to sell a lot of money in order to make enough to make another record. You sell a lot of records to make enough to make another record.
Yes.
Because, like I said, I just have no expenses. And I have no debt.
Which is good.
Yeah, that's fine. All I want to be is a working musician. I don't need to make any false friends with singles.
Yes. Now, as far as the new album is concerned, what does it actually sort of say about you? If you look at the album as a whole.
I think there's an interesting sweetness to it that people don't always give me credit for. I think it's very positive and yet complex. I have a lot of respect for happiness, which I don't really share with other people who think they should only write songs when they're miserable.
Yeah, true.
And so sometimes people will hear a song that isn't simple or easy or stupid and assume that it must be about the darker aspects of humanity. And I don't feel that way. I think we should all be trying for joy. It's incredible how rare and bizarre that is in the world. Yeah. People want to be happy. I certainly do.
Well, I mean, it comes across, I think, on all levels. That's sort of where you're taking it. And it was interesting to me when the new album was released. A lot of people weren't sure how to approach it because it was so acoustic. And the funny thing is that people associate acoustic with being slightly somber or even ballad. As much, or something that would be not upbeat and happy. But then, as I say, when you revisit the album, then you actually find out what it is that you're trying to say. How was it actually received in the States? Did people was the response good?
Yeah, and they seem to get that positive thing. Sometimes in Europe, they will project a lot onto it because it's out of context for them.
Yeah.
And they don't really seem to mind that difficulty, but I kind of do. I think, well, you should know that maybe you're projecting a lot onto this.
Yeah.
And that what you think about this record says more about you than it does about me.
Yeah.
But in America, I think I'm speaking their language a little.
Okay. And as I say, I keep on making these comparisons, and you must. I apologize, but as I say, having been a fan of yours for a long time, you tend to carry a lot of baggage with you, which which I do.
It's much appreciated in my case.
As I say, you share, or you have shared similar praise to, with the work obviously that you've done in your solo work, but more again, say with Throwing Muses, as that of Frank Black. In a way, as far as with the Pixies were concerned, because you were, you are always referred to as being one of those, you personally, again, being responsible for, a lot of what happened in, musically, again in the 80s and again in the early 90s. Do you sort of see yourself in the sense that you've achieved a similar kind of, well, almost a cult following with Throwing Muses, but now obviously a new sort of vital following with with your solo work. But as I say, Throwing Muses very much has a cult following, as does the Pixies. Did
Yeah.
you sort of agree with that or not?
I was raised listening to underground music, or like our heroes when we were teenagers, starting the Muses, were bands like X and the Violent Femmes and the Minutemen and the Husker Du. They were all underground bands who were not played on the radio and weren't trying to be played on the radio and never expected to be played on the radio. So we didn't either. We didn't even really use the vocabulary word cult because we just knew that we had a finite number of listeners and always would, and that we weren't going to play the game because it was already too late for us. We already had fallen in love with music and wanted a high every time we played and every time we listened, and it was too late to go back and try to learn to be stupid. So, yeah, we had always planned on that status of underground musician, what they used to call alternative, and it worked for us. Like I said, we didn't make any false friends. We didn't have a bunch of shitheads at our shows yelling for the single. And now I think I'm still very much an underground musician because it's not always the easiest thing for listeners.
Well,
you hear this, I guess. So, or apparently.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's probably, the funny thing is that there's I always sort of associate good and bad with 4AD in the sense that 4AD has got a name, or, is known for, for taking on, more ambitious projects than, say, major labels would. And with that, you carry the baggage of the fans that follow the label as a whole. And then you tend to get pigeonholed as being one of those artists. Meanwhile, Kristen Hersh has got a personality all of her own, and sometimes I always sort of look at it and think maybe that suffers because of the association that is given to it. Because I mean, as you know, the industry is famous for pigeonholing things.
Right. Yeah. Well, I had never heard of 4AD when we signed with them, and I didn't understand that there was such a thing as a label with fans.
Yes.
And I certainly never thought anyone would associate us with bands like Dead Can Dance or the Costco Twins. And I am still intrigued when they do. Because I don't think we have... I just felt very American compared to them.
Yes.
But the Pixies, I can understand.
Yes.
And we all played together and toured together, and we were friends. And I don't know if I'd say we sounded alike, but I guess the thrust was similar.
But I mean,
So I don't mind when it's the Pixies, and but I sometimes think maybe you didn't get it if you think we are like Dead Can Dance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. there's no assimilation there. No, absolutely none. No.
No.
No, but
Kick in the band, I guess. That's about as far.
Yeah, true. I think, as I say, I mean, I think what the label has achieved from the likes of your solo work and even that of Mojave 3 and bands like that has actually benefited the label, I think, to a great extent. I think in recent years, especially, where people were saying, okay, well, one can only sort of take so much of Dead Can Dance and Cocktail Twins. We want something, something fresh and new, which you brought to the table. And I think
there's no house sound now, which is refreshing.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, you actually were partly responsible for sort of reinventing that terrible word alternative music. From the typically English alternative to this whole American alternative, and actually making people look up and notice that America had equally as much to offer.
Oh, right, yeah. I still think that the underground is going to be ignored at large. You know, once punk happened and everyone realized that it wasn't going to happen,
Yeah.
at least in top 40,
Yeah.
they kind of gave up looking for new styles and just left that to the underground. And that's disappointing in some respects, because there's a few generations now that will never hear their own sound.
Yes.
But that said, the carrot that was held up in front of bands after Nirvana became huge, playing the sound that we had all been playing since we were in high school. Made a lot of bands water down their approach to songwriting and playing, and I think it's better now that that top 40 is so terrible.
Yeah.
Because the underground is really strong. You know, no one thinks for a minute that their good band is going to get played on the radio. And they're right. So they become experimental stylistically. They write songs that mean something to them, and that's great. It makes for a really strong underground, and maybe more people will be attracted to it when they realize that radio sucks so bad.
But now, if as I say, Strange Angels all of a sudden became this huge hit, and became a Billboard album, in the sense that it crashed into the top 20, would you be happy for that, in the sense of, you know, it being understood to that extent, or are you happier having your music understood by, you know, a smaller audience?
I don't think it's a big worry, for one. I don't really see that happening. But I think that I wouldn't be convinced that a lot of people got it. I would think that they were tricked into it by hearing the most attractive song on the radio or something. And then the next time I made a record, maybe it wouldn't have an attractive song on it, and it would be considered a failure. I like that people give me the benefit of the doubt for, you know, because I never sell any records, they figure I'm doing this for another reason, which is true, and I can really use that. You know, I can tour whether I have a record out or not, and I can not sell many records and no one really cares because they don't expect me to anyway.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm not trying to be obscure or confusing to people either. I wouldn't not want them to listen to it. I don't think I'd really be fooled by that.
But now you mentioned that you're doing this for another reason, obviously besides the commercial potential or whatever. What is the reason?
I just like music. I think it's a good thing.
It's a great place to be, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes. I'm getting better at hanging out there.
Yeah, because
I don't whine about it so much.
Because I mean, you know, I think a lot of people would say, well, then, you know, what is the?
But once you've cleaned yourself out enough to hear real songs with pure song voices that could speak to anyone, then those songs want to get out of your house and go play to other people. Just like children, I guess. You can't keep them in your closet.
And
it becomes an exercise in frustration.
And if you had to sort of sum up what your, you know, who it is that you are appealing to, especially say with the new album, you know, in putting the songs together, were you sort of aware of what hips and makers have done, and obviously take out the Michael Stipe equation, because I actually don't sort of equate that to the album's success, although, you know, I think it's just...
That was very nice of you.
But did you reference the last album in putting this album together, just from a musical point of view, and sort of thinking to yourself, well, that worked musically. You can still write what you want lyrically, but were you sort of trying to touch those people again, or was it just sort of another chapter?
I don't think I really knew what I was doing when I made Hips and Makers. I was feeling my way around the studio without a major production plan, because I had never made an acoustic record before. So this time I was really working with the benefit of experience, and yet trying to focus on these songs and how different they were from the Hips and Makers songs. And that said, I just work in a vacuum as far as I'm concerned. I don't assume that anyone is going to hear what I'm doing. So when I go to work, and the Muses were this way too, we would just have the song there, and it would ask for little treatments here and there, or a different performance, and then we'd leave and we'd start over the next day. And when you're done, you suddenly begin thinking that, it's this living thing, and it's going to have to go off and grow up now, and it begins with the record label and the mix, and it ends at the end of the tour when you've given it away to a lot of people, and a lot of people have filled their house with it, and it comes back years later all grown up and better for it.
Mm-hmm. Is it difficult in sort of writing a song and then putting it out, that the ownership is no longer yours, that it's something that you struggled with, and now you're putting it out there?
Yeah, it can be, although I quit being overly sensitive about the stuff that is pure song voice. I realized that if I'm having a problem with other people listening to it, then maybe it's a little bit too much of a diary page, and I didn't leave the song alone, or I didn't get my self-expression out in time. And those songs I tend not to publish.
Well, Kristen, I know that I'm actually running on empty here at the moment, as far as my time is concerned, but could I ask you one last favour, if I may?
Yes, of course.
I'm going to be putting this interview out on a show that I do for college radio. So whether you like it or not, 360,000 people are going to hear this interview over the next 3 to 4 weeks.
I didn't swear.
No, believe me, that's the beauty of college radio. People don't have opinions on things like that here anyway. So
great.
Yeah, we're getting there slowly but surely in our small way, But the name of the show is very cliched, I'm afraid, but it's a show that I do, and it's called The Cutting Edge. So if you could maybe say something like, "Hi, this is Kristen Hersh, and you're listening to The Cutting Edge," would that be okay?
That's pretty easy. I think I can handle that.
Okay.
My husband did a show on MTV called that.
Oh, really? Oh, dear. I'll start paying him royalties. Yeah.
Okay, anytime?
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Hi, this is Kristen Hersh, and you're listening to The Cutting Edge.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
Sure.
It's
in America, you have all these call letters and sentences and names you have to say. Especially someone with no brain.
You definitely have to give yourself a little bit more credit.
I'll work on that.
Yeah, you definitely
have a huge ego next time we talk.
Well, you should. I mean, you definitely have enough behind you to have a bigger ego than most out there. I can promise you that much.
Oh, I can't wait. Maybe I'll get one someday.
Sure. But thank you very much again. It
was lovely speaking with you.
Lovely, as I said. It's been a pleasure of mine. I hope that I do sort of venture out again to the States soon enough to actually see you play again, because it was far too short. I think I need at least 2 hours. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Come and introduce yourself if that ever happens.
Thank you very much. But
Take care.
yeah, have a good day. Thank you again.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye now.